My beloved family, today's reminder is not just something to listen to, it is something to feel, something to let settle deep inside your heart. Because I know how heavy your chest feels these days. I know the quiet battles you are fighting when no one is watching. You wake up tired even after sleeping. Your mind is constantly racing. You're trying so hard to hold yourself together, but inside there is a weight that keeps building. You have been putting in the effort, real effort. You've been applying everywhere, rewriting your CV over and over again, adjusting every word, every sentence, hoping that maybe this version will finally be the one that gets noticed. You've been making dua in the depth of the night, whispering your worries to Allah, raising your hands with sincerity, asking for just one opening, just one chance, and still nothing. No calls, no interviews, no responses. Just silence that feels louder than rejection itself. And in that silence, a dangerous thought begins to grow. A whisper that slowly turns into a belief. Why Allah? Why is nothing working for me? Have I been forgotten? But listen carefully, closer than you ever have before, not with your ears, but with the part of your heart that still believes, even if it feels weak right now. You are not being rejected. You are being redirected in ways that your current perspective cannot yet understand. Because what you see is a closed door, but what Allah sees is a path that is still being built specifically for you. What you feel is delay, but what Allah is doing is precise timing. What looks like absence is actually protection, planning, and preparation happening beyond your vision. Think about the way your days have been passing. You wake up with a small spark of hope, telling yourself that maybe today will be different. You sit down, open your laptop, scroll through opportunities, convincing yourself not to lose motivation. You write applications carefully, trying to sound confident, even when your heart feels uncertain. You click submit, and for a moment you breathe, you wait. You check your email, then you check it again and again. Hours go by, then days, and every time your inbox stays empty, something inside you sinks just a little deeper. You begin to question yourself. Am I not good enough? Did I make the wrong choices? Am I falling behind everyone else? But the truth is far more powerful than these thoughts. There's nothing wrong with you. Nothing. The silence you are experiencing is not a reflection of your worth. It is not proof of your failure. It is not a sign that you are incapable or undeserving. It is simply a part of a process that Allah has written for you with complete knowledge, wisdom, and care. There are people just like you, people who are sincere, hardworking, and patient. People who wake up for Tahajjud with tears in their eyes, pouring their hearts out to Allah, asking for relief, asking for a door to open. People who have done everything right by the standards of the world, yet still find themselves waiting. And that waiting is where the real transformation is happening. Because when Allah delays something, it is never empty. It is never meaningless. It is never cruel. It is intentional. He is protecting you from things you cannot see. Perhaps there was an opportunity you were so close to getting, but hidden within it was stress that would have broken you, an environment that would have drained your faith, or people who would have harmed your peace. You saw an opportunity, but Allah saw the full picture. He is preparing you for something greater. Not just giving you a job, but shaping you into the kind of person who can carry responsibility, handle pressure, and remain grounded no matter what comes your way. He is strengthening your patience, deepening your reliance on Him, and teaching you lessons that no success could ever teach. He is elevating you spiritually. Because sometimes the greatest gift is not what you receive in your hands, but what develops inside your heart. A heart that learns to trust Allah even when nothing makes sense. A heart that stays connected even when the world feels distant. You see, many people chase opportunities with full energy, but forget the one who controls those opportunities. They perfect their resumes, but neglect their connection with Allah. They knock on every door they can find, but forget to turn to the one who holds all the keys. And this is where everything begins to change. Because provision does not come from effort alone. Effort is important, yes, but it is not the source. The source is Allah. And when your heart aligns with the source, the means begin to fall into place in ways you never expected. You are not stuck in life. You are being repositioned. You are not falling behind. You are being realigned. You are not abandoned. You are being invited to come closer. Sometimes Allah blocks the distractions of the dunya so that you finally turn toward Him with full sincerity, without anything else competing for your attention. Sometimes He removes what you are chasing so that you can discover what truly matters. And understand this deeply: your provision was written for you long before you ever existed. Before you sent a single application, before any company opened a position, before any opportunity appeared in your life, your name was already connected to what will eventually reach you. Nothing can take it away from you. Nothing can delay it beyond its appointed time. And nothing can replace what Allah has written specifically for you. So the question is not whether your provision will come. It will. The real question is, who will you become while you are waiting for it? Because this phase of your life is not empty. It is shaping you. It is building resilience inside you. It is teaching you to rely on Allah in a way you may have never experienced before. It is removing your attachment from people and placing it onto the one who never fails. Maybe this delay is guiding you towards something you never considered. Starting something of your own, learning a new skill, discovering a strength within yourself that only hardship could reveal. Maybe it is freeing you from the fear of rejection, teaching you that your worth is not defined by responses, titles, or validation from others. Or maybe, just maybe, it is protecting your faith, your peace, and your future in ways that you will only understand much later. What feels like a setback right now may actually be the foundation of your greatest breakthrough. Because when the moment finally comes, when Allah opens that door, it will not just be an opportunity. It will be something that fits your life in a way that makes you realize why everything else had to fall apart. And when Allah opens a door, no one can close it. No rejection can stop it. No delay can prevent it. No person can take it away. So release the panic that has been sitting in your chest. Let go of the belief that you are failing. Stop measuring your journey against others, because you are not walking their path and they are not walking yours. You are exactly where you are meant to be right now, being prepared, being refined, being strengthened, being positioned for something that is still on its way. And one day, sooner than you think, everything will make sense. You will look back at this period, the silence, the waiting, the unanswered applications, and you will see it differently. You will see that every delay had a purpose. Every no was guiding you. Every moment of doubt was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and closer to Allah. This is not the end of your story. This is the part where you are being trained before the breakthrough. This is the silence before the doors open. This is the test before the gift arrives. And the one who is writing your story is the one who loves you more deeply than anyone in this world ever could. You are not as stuck as you feel, and your story is not as silent as it seems. What feels like stillness is often a kind of movement that your eyes cannot yet detect, and what feels like emptiness is often filled with a deeper purpose that has not yet reached the surface. There is a quiet unfolding happening in your life right now. Even if everything on the outside looks unchanged, there is a wisdom being written into your days that you will only understand when you are no longer standing in this moment, but looking back at it. Sometimes Allah does not withhold to punish you. He withholds to awaken you. There are truths about yourself, about your heart, about your dependence, that you would never discover if everything kept going the way you planned. Ease can sometimes make a person forget. It can create a sense of control that was never real to begin with. It can slowly distance the heart without any obvious warning signs. But when things begin to slow down, when doors begin to close, when outcomes no longer match effort, something shifts inside you. You begin to feel a gap. You begin to notice a silence within yourself that you cannot ignore anymore. And that silence is not empty, it is a call. When Allah wants to elevate someone, He does not always begin by giving them more of what they want. He begins by changing what they feel. He places an awareness in the heart, a realization that something essential has been missing. Not success, not recognition, not opportunity, but connection. A connection that was always there, but perhaps not prioritized. A connection that becomes clearer when everything else fades into the background. That feeling, that inner pull, is not a sign that something is wrong with your life. It is a sign that something is being corrected. Because the journey you thought you were on was never only about reaching a destination in the dunya. It was always about being brought closer to the one who controls every destination. There is a hidden conversation taking place within every no you experience. It is not just an outcome, it is a message. Sometimes Allah allows the world to withhold from you so that your heart can finally respond to Him in a way it never has before. A response that is not rushed, not distracted, not divided. A response that is sincere, raw, and real. A return that is not based on convenience, but on recognition. You may have done everything within your ability. You may have put in the hours, refined your approach, exhausted your options, and still found yourself standing in the same place. And that can feel confusing. It can feel unfair. It can make you question what more you could possibly do. But the reality is that what is happening is not a reflection of a lack in you. It is a redirection from Allah. Because sometimes the path you are pushing toward is not the path that was written for you. And no matter how qualified you are, no matter how prepared you feel, no matter how much effort you invest, if it is not aligned with what Allah has chosen, it will not open. Not because you are incapable, but because you are being guided elsewhere. And that guidance often comes in a form that feels like resistance. Doors close. Opportunities fade. Responses never arrive. And in that process, something deeper begins to open. A part of you that was not fully engaged before. A part of you that begins to turn inward, then upward. A part of you that begins to speak to Allah with a sincerity that only comes from feeling truly in need. That moment, when you are in sujood and your words are no longer polished, no longer structured, but simply honest, that moment carries a weight that no worldly success can replicate. It is a moment where the distance between you and Allah feels smaller than ever. A moment where you are seen, heard, and understood in a way that no human interaction could ever provide. And that is not something small. That is something that changes you. Because what you are going through is not just about what you will eventually receive. It is about who you are becoming in the process of waiting. It is about the layers being removed from your heart, the illusions being stripped away, the false dependencies being replaced with something real. You begin to notice changes within yourself. You become more aware of your thoughts, more intentional with your actions, more honest in your prayers. You start to feel a different kind of strength, not the kind that comes from having everything figured out, but the kind that comes from trusting even when nothing is clear. And this kind of strength is rare. It is built in moments like these, where everything external feels uncertain, but something internal is quietly stabilizing, where you are learning to stand not on outcomes, but on faith. Not on guarantees, but on trust. You begin to understand that your provision was never something you had to chase in panic. It was something already written, already assigned, already on its way to you in a form and at a time that is beyond your calculation. And that realization begins to shift your entire perspective. Because instead of seeing your current situation as a lack, you begin to see it as a stage of preparation. Instead of feeling like you are being held back, you begin to feel like you are being positioned. Instead of questioning your worth, you begin to recognize your direction. Maybe what is written for you does not exist in the places you have been searching. Maybe it exists in something you have not yet explored, a skill you have overlooked, an idea you have dismissed, a path you were hesitant to walk because it did not match what you originally planned. Sometimes the reason things are not working the way you expected is because your life is not meant to follow that exact script. Sometimes you are being guided towards something that requires a different version of you. A version that is still being developed. A version that is learning patience, resilience, reliance, and courage all at once. And that development cannot be rushed. It takes time. It takes moments of discomfort. It takes periods where nothing seems to be happening on the surface while everything is being shaped beneath it. Because what is coming into your life is not just meant to arrive, it is meant to stay. And for it to stay, you have to be ready for it. Not just in skill, but in mindset. Not just in ability, but in character. And Allah, in His wisdom, knows exactly when that readiness is complete. So what you are experiencing right now is not a pause without purpose. It is a phase filled with intention. A phase where your heart is being recalibrated, your direction is being refined, and your understanding is being deepened. Even the discomfort you feel has meaning. Even the waiting has value. Even the uncertainty is shaping something within you that will serve you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Because one day, when things begin to open, when opportunities finally align, when you step into what was written for you, you will not be the same person who once waited in confusion. You will be someone who understands, someone who trusts, someone who carries a calmness that comes from having experienced what it means to rely fully on Allah. And in that moment, everything that once felt like a delay will feel like perfect timing. Everything that once felt like silence will feel like careful planning. Everything that once felt like being held back will feel like being protected and guided with precision. Your story is not paused. It is being written in a way that prioritizes your growth, your faith, your strength, and your future all at once. And even now, in this very moment, you are not standing still. You are being moved gently, intentionally, and with a wisdom that does not fail, towards something that is already written for you, already yours, and already on its way. This is the part where everything begins to come together in a way that your heart can finally understand, even if your circumstances have not yet changed. This is the part where the fog slowly starts to lift, not because everything becomes visible all at once, but because something inside you becomes steady enough to move forward without needing to see the entire path. Because what you are living through right now is not just a phase of waiting, it is a phase of awakening. A phase where Allah is not only preparing what is coming for you, but preparing you for what is coming. And there is a difference between the two that most people never stop to reflect on. You may think you are waiting for provision, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for something external to finally shift your life forward. But in reality, what is happening is that your inner world is being reshaped so that when that provision arrives, it does not confuse you, it does not consume you, and it does not distance you from the one who gave it to you. The truth that changes everything is this: provision does not begin when your hands receive. It begins when your heart aligns. Because hands can only hold what has already been written. But the heart determines how it is received, how it is used, and whether it brings peace or pressure. Two people can be given the same opportunity, the same income, the same success, and yet one finds contentment while the other feels overwhelmed, empty, or lost. The difference is not in what they were given, it is in what they carried within themselves when they received it. And this is why Allah focuses on your heart before He fills your hands. Most people are taught to chase provision outwardly, to increase effort, to improve skills, to become more competitive, more visible, more qualified. And while all of that has its place, it is incomplete without the foundation that Islam teaches so deeply, that your connection with Allah is not separate from your provision, it is directly tied to it. Your intention shapes your direction. Your awareness of Allah shapes your decisions. Your trust in Him shapes your peace. Your presence in sujood shapes your resilience. Your relationship with Him shapes the barakah in everything that enters your life. Without this, even abundance can feel like a burden. With this, even little can feel like more than enough. And so, when Allah wants to give you something greater, something that will not just increase your dunya, but also protect your akhirah, He begins by creating space within you. And sometimes, that space is created by taking things away. Plans fall apart. Opportunities disappear. Paths you thought were certain suddenly become unclear, and you are left standing with what feels like emptiness. But that emptiness is not absence, it is preparation. It is the clearing of everything that would have distracted you, everything that would have made you rely on something other than Allah, everything that would have filled your hands but left your heart unattended. Because if your hands are already full, you will not recognize the blessing when it comes. You may hold it, but you will not value it. You may receive it, but you will not see the mercy within it. But when your hands are empty, when you have felt what it means to have nothing to rely on except Allah, when you have experienced the depth of turning to Him with sincerity, then when something finally comes into your life, you see it differently. You recognize it not just as an opportunity, but as a gift. Not just as provision, but as a sign of His care, His timing, His wisdom. An empty hand feels heavy because it challenges your sense of control. It reminds you that you are not in charge of outcomes. But that same empty hand is also ready to receive without distraction, ready to appreciate without arrogance, ready to hold without fear of losing, because it knows that what came from Allah will always remain under His care. And many times, what you are waiting for is not being held back, because it is not written for you, but because the version of you that can carry it is still being formed. There is a balance that exists, a quiet system that Allah has placed within life itself, a system where effort matters, but it is not everything, where action is required, but it is not the source, where movement is necessary, but direction is everything. You are meant to act, to try, to apply, to learn, to grow, to take steps even when they feel small. Because effort is a form of obedience. It is a way of showing that you are willing, that you are present, that you are not abandoning your responsibility. Even when the outcome is uncertain, the act itself carries value. But your heart must not become attached to the act. Because the moment your heart attaches itself to effort instead of Allah, you begin to measure your worth by results. You begin to feel defeated when things do not work out. You begin to believe that your future is limited to what you can control. And that is where the exhaustion comes from. Because you were never meant to carry that weight. You were meant to act with sincerity and leave the outcome with trust. And there are things that quietly interrupt this flow, things that are not always visible, but deeply impactful. The state of your heart, your habits, your private actions, your unseen choices, they all shape the way blessings move within your life. When the heart becomes heavy, when it carries distance, when it is covered in layers that disconnect it from Allah, it becomes less receptive. Not because Allah withholds without reason, but because the heart itself is not fully open to receiving. This is why returning to Allah is not just an act of worship, it is a process of realignment, a way of clearing what cannot be seen but can be felt, a way of restoring the connection that allows blessings to flow with ease and meaning. When you turn back sincerely, when you seek forgiveness not just with words but with awareness, when you begin to care about what is within you as much as what is around you, something begins to change. The weight lifts, the clarity increases, the path, even if still unknown, feels less overwhelming. And then provision begins to reach you in ways that do not follow your expectations. Not always through the doors you knocked on, not always through the paths you planned, but through openings that feel almost unexpected, almost surprising. A moment, a connection, an idea, a shift, something that leads to something else. And suddenly you find yourself moving forward in a way that did not exist before. This is the nature of provision when it is tied to trust. And generosity becomes part of this flow in a way that defies logic but aligns perfectly with faith. Giving when you feel like you have little is not a loss. It is a statement. A statement that your trust is not in what you hold, but in who provides. And that trust opens doors that cannot be forced open by effort alone. Because provision is not just about increase, it is about barakah. It is about ease within what you have. It is about peace within what you receive. It is about growth that does not overwhelm you, success that does not distance you, and abundance that does not empty your heart. And then there is a realization that comes quietly, but once it settles, it changes everything. Not everyone is meant to walk the same path. Some people are not created to fit into existing structures. They try, they apply, they enter spaces, but something always feels off. They feel restricted, disconnected, unable to fully express what is within them. And they interpret that as failure. But it is not failure, it is direction. Because some people are meant to build, not follow, to create, not adapt, to open doors, not wait for them. And for those people, the journey often begins with rejection, not because they are not good enough, but because they are not meant to remain where they are trying to enter. And Allah, in His wisdom, does not allow them to settle into something smaller than what was written for them. He closes every alternative until the only option left is the one that requires courage, the one that requires trust, the one that requires stepping into uncertainty with faith instead of fear. And this is where your focus begins to shift in a way that transforms everything. You stop saying, I need this outcome to survive. And you begin to feel, I need Allah, and everything else will follow. And in that shift, something powerful happens. The pressure begins to ease. The fear begins to loosen. The constant anxiety about what will happen next begins to fade. Because you realize that you are not dependent on outcomes. You are sustained by the one who creates them. And when that realization settles deeply within you, provision begins to find you in ways that feel almost effortless. Not because you stop trying, but because your effort is now aligned with trust, because your movement is now guided by something deeper than fear. You begin to rise not just outwardly, but inwardly, through sincerity, through consistency, through the quiet strength of choosing faith again and again, even when doubt tries to return. And if your life feels silent right now, understand that silence is not absence. It is preparation. It is the space where something new is being written, something that has not yet appeared, but is already in motion. There is a shift happening, a redirection, a rebuilding, a positioning. You are being moved step by step from where you are into where you are meant to be. And even if you cannot map it out, even if you cannot explain it, even if you cannot yet see the result, you are not lost. You are being guided carefully, intentionally, with a wisdom that sees what you cannot. And what is written for you is not just approaching. It is being shaped in a way that will meet you exactly where you are at the exact moment you are ready to receive it. And when it finally comes, when that door opens, in a way you never expected, when your heart feels at peace in a place you once prayed for, when your provision reaches you in a form that fits your life so perfectly, you will pause. Not because you're surprised that it happened, but because you'll finally understand why it didn't happen earlier. You will look back at the silence, the rejections, the unanswered calls, the nights you felt forgotten, and you will realize that none of it was wasted. Every delay was shaping you. Every closed door was protecting you. Every moment of confusion was guiding you somewhere better. You will see that Allah was not holding you back. He was holding you together. He was not denying you. He was refining you. He was not ignoring your dua. He was answering it in a way your heart wasn't ready to recognize yet. And in that moment, your Asiaity will be filled with a kind of certainty that no hardship can ever shake again. A certainty that what is written for you will never miss you. A certainty that no delay is ever without purpose. A certainty that Allah's plan was always more merciful, more precise, and more beautiful than anything you could have planned for yourself. So walk forward from here with a different Asiat. A Hiyat that trusts even when it cannot see. A Hiyat that remains soft even after being tested. A Hiyat that knows that provision is not chased. It is received at the exact moment Allah has written. Because what is yours is already on its way. What is meant for you is already being prepared. And what Allah has written for you will reach you in a way that will make you forget every moment you thought you were behind. So stay patient, stay sincere, stay connected. Because your story is not ending in struggle. It is unfolding into something greater than you ever imagined.